For decades, Pakistan relied heavily on its geopolitical location to remain relevant in international affairs. Sandwiched between China, India, Iran, and Afghanistan, it positioned itself as a strategic player. But in recent years, a quiet yet seismic shift has begun. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India has been executing a foreign policy strategy that is not loud or theatrical, but rather calculated, patient, and profoundly effective. And at the heart of this strategy lies a quiet isolation of Pakistan. The shift isn't just occurring in South Asia, it's visible in global trade routes, diplomatic circles, economic coalitions, and defense partnerships. Pakistan, once considered a crucial player in regional negotiations, whether over Afghanistan, the Kashmir conflict, or U.S.-China dynamics, now finds itself increasingly sidelined. Its voice carries less weight, its alliances are weaker, and its traditional leverage points are being neutralized one by one. Modi's foreign policy isn't focused on confronting Pakistan directly. In fact, that would be too obvious and likely counterproductive. Instead, it revolves around enhancing India's global partnerships, increasing its economic footprint, and positioning itself as the more responsible, democratic, and forward-looking power in the region. In that contrast, Pakistan begins to look like an unreliable, unstable, and regressive actor. Take the Gulf region as an example. Historically, Saudi Arabia and the UAE were strong allies of Pakistan. Religious ties, military cooperation, and remittance channels kept them closely connected. But under Modi's administration, India has made dramatic inroads into the Gulf, especially with the UAE. Defense cooperation, investments, digital infrastructure projects, and diplomatic dialogues have multiplied. The optics have changed. Indian leaders are received with red carpet treatment, major business deals are being signed, and cultural ties are deepening. Meanwhile, Pakistan's relationship with the same Gulf powers has plateaued, even faltered. The Israel factor is another pivot. Pakistan has traditionally maintained a hard stance on Israel, refusing to recognize the state due to its solidarity with Palestine. India, on the other hand, has evolved. Under Modi, New Delhi has openly embraced diplomatic and defense ties with Israel, tapping into advanced technologies, agricultural expertise, and cybersecurity capabilities. The West sees this as maturity, a willingness to engage pragmatically, not ideologically. In this context, Pakistan's refusal to adapt is seen as rigid and outdated. And then there's Afghanistan. During the U.S. withdrawal, many nations watched closely to see who could fill the diplomatic vacuum. Pakistan tried to retain influence by backing the Taliban's return, but it miscalculated. The global community viewed this move not as strategic, but destabilizing. In contrast, India maintained dialogue with multiple stakeholders, invested in humanitarian support, and positioned itself as a constructive force. Quietly but significantly, the perception shifted. India, not Pakistan, became the partner more aligned with global stability. The SKO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is another interesting case. China and Russia may have once seen Pakistan as a key ally in South Asia, but over time, they've realized that Pakistan's domestic instability is a liability, not an asset. India's participation in the SKO, though cautious, has been far more stable. Modi's government engages diplomatically, pushes for counterterrorism cooperation, and emphasizes trade, all points that resonate more with the West, and even with pragmatic elements in the East. We also cannot ignore India's increasing closeness to the United States. Modi has cleverly leveraged shared democratic values, economic potential, and regional security interests to forge an Indo-American alliance that has become one of the defining features of 21st century geopolitics. This puts Pakistan in a difficult spot. Its reliance on China and its increasingly fragile relationship with the West has limited its ability to maneuver. And in a world that's realigning around US-India cooperation, being on the opposite end of that spectrum is not advantageous. Modi's success in quietly isolating Pakistan isn't just about diplomacy, it's about reshaping narratives. India is rebranding itself as a technology leader, a startup capital, a responsible nuclear power, a spacefaring nation, and a defender of democratic order in the Indo-Pacific. These narratives are powerful. They make headlines, shape investments, and influence global perception. Pakistan, meanwhile, is stuck in a cycle of political instability, IMF bailouts, military influence in civilian governance, and a crumbling economy. The world is watching and deciding whom to bet on. To truly grasp how far the shift has gone, one must look at the multilateral stage. The G20 presidency in 2023 was a defining moment for India, not just in terms of optics, but substance. Modi's government positioned India as a voice for the global South, speaking on climate equity, debt relief, digital infrastructure, and sustainable development. India was no longer just participating in the conversation, it was helping lead it. Pakistan, on the other hand, was not even in the room, and that absence speaks volumes. In diplomacy, being excluded is often more damaging than being criticized. India was laying out a vision for the future, and Pakistan wasn't even invited to shape it. Consider BRICS, an alliance originally meant to represent emerging markets as a counterbalance to the West. While India has occasionally clashed with China within the group, it remains a key pillar, with a growing economy, a stable leadership, and a clear agenda. Pakistan, by contrast, has never been seriously considered for membership, and it's not because of geopolitics alone, it's because its economy is unstable, its politics are chaotic, and its strategic value is diminishing. But perhaps the most symbolic blow came when major tech and investment summits, hosted in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Southeast Asia, increasingly featured Indian executives, officials, and startups. India is being seen as the next frontier for AI, fintech, green energy, and space exploration. Pakistan, tragically, is not even part of that conversation. While India is building an identity of aspiration and modernity, Pakistan is still battling narratives of extremism and economic dysfunction. The military dynamics are also shifting. India's arms deals with countries like France for Rafale jets, the US for drones and strategic tech, and even Russia, despite global tensions, point to one thing: New Delhi is seen as a trustworthy long-term partner. Pakistan, historically tied to US military aid, has seen that aid dry up, not just because of changing interests, but because of a fundamental loss of trust. In the Indo-Pacific, India is a critical player in the Quad, alongside the US, Japan, and Australia, aimed at maintaining a rules-based order in the region. Pakistan, again, is absent. China may be backing Pakistan militarily, but it does so with increasing caution. Beijing is concerned not just with Pakistan's economic collapse, but with the growing backlash against Chinese workers and projects inside Pakistani territory. Even the once celebrated China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, has lost momentum, plagued by security issues and unmet promises. Modi's foreign policy is not about chest-thumping nationalism, it's strategic patience, it's global networking. It's showing up, again and again, in the right rooms, with the right tone, and offering something the world wants: stability, scale, and growth. In contrast, Pakistan appears reactive, often resorting to victimhood, while India quietly moves ahead. What makes this isolation so striking is that it's not the result of direct confrontation. Modi didn't have to launch a military operation or denounce Pakistan on every global stage. He simply made India more attractive, more necessary, to the rest of the world. And when one side becomes indispensable, the other becomes optional. The most ironic part, Pakistan's own foreign policy hasn't evolved to counter this. It still relies on old assumptions: that China will always be its savior, that the Muslim world will stand by it out of religious solidarity, and that the West fears its nuclear arsenal enough to keep engaging. But these assumptions no longer hold. China is wary, the Gulf is pragmatic, and the West has more confidence in India's democratic structure than Pakistan's military-political hybrid system. India didn't have to isolate Pakistan with force, it did it with relevance, and that in today's global order is far more effective.